What is the fastest you have ever seen a new coworker get fired? Heard this from a manager I worked with when I worked in fast food. There was this one kid who didn't show up for work. He ditched work often, so the manager called around, couldn't get anyone to fill in his shift, so she had to fill it for him. A few hours into his shift, the dude ditching shows up, with his friends, and orders food from that manager. She fired him on the spot. Edit, these were my first awards, and y'all just multiplied my karma by 10. Thanks y'all for the likes and awards. Congratulations, you've been promoted to a customer. Did he get his order though? I think so, considering he was just a customer now. First day of work, he walks in, says what the F is up dumbass to the guy that parked next to, didn't touch, his new Camaro he bought since he got hired. The guy was the CEO of the company I used to work for, on visit to our branch. Literally 10 minutes into his shift he was signing release papers. I want to see the interest rate for a first day of work loan. Go check out any dealer near a military base. The amount of times my buddies had to give the new recruits the talk about not going to the dealership by the base because of the incredibly bad deals/rates, yet have recruits go to the dealership anyways and buy a car. I work construction. We had 2 new hires that were friends starting the same day. Boss told one take a coffee order and come back. Took everyone's money and said he needed his friend to go with him because it was a big order. They never came back. They quit a construction job to steal, and split, the cash from a few coffee orders? I imagine if they had stayed and worked a full day they would have earned more than that. Yeah, but it's hard work. This was a while ago at my old job. New guy gets hired as a busboy. He was super annoying and tried to insert himself into everyone's conversation whether they wanted him there or not. It only took a couple of hours for the whole restaurant to hate him. I was working the bar and he kept eating the bar fruit. I personally didn't care but the manager did. Manager comes over and tells him to stop eating the fruit. He looks the manager in the eye and eats another piece of fruit. Manager says really? Followed by come with me to the office. New guy promptly replies with alright man, calm down. I can tell you got that big dick energy for a good reason, followed with cliche wink and nudge from his elbow. In front of me and like 4 other employees. I wanted to slam my face into the ice bin, it was so cringy to witness. He promptly walked out the front door 10 minutes later without his uniform on anymore. The worst thing about it was the manager was an insanely laid-back guy. Hell, the whole restaurant was insanely laid back. You really had to try hard to get fired from this place. Had he not thrown in that big dick line, I'm almost positive he would have just gotten a slap on the wrist and kept the job. You got that big dick energy absolutely kills me. Why would you ever say that to anyone? Let alone your boss. Guy got hired, while going through orientation realized that his ex-girlfriend worked there too, turned around and walked right out the front door. My man. Not sure if it counts as being fired, but a guy in our basic training threatened a drill sergeant with a bayonet. No idea what happened after he went to the hospital, but I didn't see him again. I choose to believe that the DS yelled at him with extreme dedication until he needed medical assistance. That is an excellent way to phrase that. A guy in our basic training threatened a drill sergeant with a bayonet. Why is Private Pile holding that weapon? Why aren't you stomping Private Pile's guts out? You don't tell me what to do, you're a woman. To his trainer. Lasted until management came in that morning and heard about it. I heard a guy say that in his job interview. He was quite desperate for a job. The interviewer was the general manager, and she just got up and left him sitting there. He sat there for a bit before he came to ask what was going on, and she said that she's the GM, and if he won't listen to women there's no point in her saying anything else. I would have told you to go home, but I thought you would prefer to receive the message through my absence. My dad managed a small business and my mother worked closely with him. Dad is white, mom is Asian, raised in the US, no accent whatsoever. They both interviewed a man who asked my dad if she was a mail order bride. Curious how he didn't get the job. Worked in a grocery store for a while. New guy took a lobster out of the tank and removed the elastic bands on its claws, then proceeded to put it back in the tank. The thing murdered all the other lobsters in the tank. I was halfway expecting a theft attempt by putting said live and free lobster down his pants. I thought he was going to chase co-workers with it. Not going to lie, I'd find that funny. I got hired as a long-term temp with one other person to do some basic data entry work at a major brand pretty much everyone has heard of. And it was at their corporate headquarters, so pretty prestigious. Anyway, we went through all of this onboarding stuff in the morning that required us to get photo IDs and figure out parking and all that stuff. Then after 2 or 3 hours we were introduced to one of the employees in our new department who began going over what we were going to be doing. None of it seemed overly difficult, and I figured that while it was new system I had never used before, I'd be able to work it out in a few days as long as I asked questions and took notes. And that was the thing that made me realize that the other person who got hired with me probably lied on her resume and was completely out of her depth. She didn't take any notes and didn't ask any questions. And whenever I glanced at her I could see flashes of panic on her face. Well, lunchtime came, and when we came back she said that another company had called her and offered her a permanent position and she couldn't work with us any longer. Both I and the person training us knew what was going on, but I'll give the other lady credit for finding a way out without losing face too badly. The takeaway here is, yes, fake it until you make it can and does work. But you got to be able to fake it. You can't fake faking it. Yes, fake it until you make it can and does work. But you got to be able to fake it. You can't fake faking it. Exactly. Got to do it right? My aunt, many moons ago as a young woman, applied to a well-paid job as a secretary. The interview went well and she typed really well and quickly. There was a test, and then she was asked if she could also do stenography, which she answered in the affirmative. It was also a lie. You bet she went and took lessons and got books on it immediately, and was up to a fairly good ability by the time that job actually started. This is how fake it until you make it actually works. One of my previous IT jobs, I had an interview where they asked some questions about network security that I had vague knowledge of, but not in depth. They called me back for a second interview, and I spent a good amount of time over the next few days reading up on the topics they had asked. When I went in the interview, after small talk, I jumped in and went, "So, you previously asked me about XYZ, and I was a little nervous, but here's what my answers should have been." Later on, one of the people on my interview panel told me that had largely locked in his vote for me to be hired. He said he didn't care if I'd known it or not previously, either I had, which was what they wanted, or I'd researched it and taught myself enough about it in a few days to look knowledgeable. Both were acceptable in his eyes. New guy started on Monday and was gone by Friday. The guy hit some racking in the warehouse with the forklift, boss saw him do it, and the guy decided to lie about it when asked if he knew what happened. The only thing he did wrong was to lie to his boss. A shame really, mistakes happen, and most employers are cool about it if you own up to it. Lying though, that's a bad idea. Edit, no castles or moats were involved. Just the pain of typing a comment on a tiny phone, sorry. I worked for a big home improvement store that I won't name, all I can say is the stores are orange. We had a guy come into work crap-faced and run one of the forklifts into the outdoor storage racks with customers around. Another employee forcibly removed him from the lift and dragged him to the back. Dude was given 2 options, walk and potentially face criminal charges, or go to an inpatient treatment center on the company's dime, and his job would be there if he wanted it after he got out. I can honestly say it's the one actually good thing I ever saw the company do at a corporate level. Having worked for same orange store once upon a time, I hope you appreciated that yours was run by literal saints. A 19-year-old kid got hired to work the seafood counter. See him twice and then never again. Asked the coworker what happened. He had closed seafood one night and was walking out of the store, and the 5 pounds of crab legs he'd stuffed down the back of his pants fell out in front of the closing manager. Edit, it was at a Publix. No, it was not Jameis Winston. Did this young man happen to win the Heisman Trophy? He was intercepted by the closing manager, so yeah, it was probably him. Couldn't pass the simple tests given at the end of new hire orientation. Yelled at test facilitator when she wouldn't just take the test for him. Sounds like an engineer my company hired. He was a PhD and really hit it off with the guys in management. Had some female colleagues working under his direction, and he was an absolute dick, demeaned their work, blamed them for things not working. Now my colleagues were excellent formulation chemists. He was brought on to lead a new formulation project and it wasn't working. He would tell them how to do it and it never worked. He kept blaming them for doing it wrong. My coworker got fed up and called him on his bullcrap during a big meeting with a prepared presentation describing what they tried, how thoroughly they tried it, why what he proposed would never work, and an alternative solution. He was pissed, but the management guys were extremely knowledgeable and started asking him questions, and it was clear he couldn't answer. Turns out, his wife has a PhD too, and she pretty much did all of his degree work for him, both from a culture where women are not treated equally. He knew absolutely nothing. Not only that, but once everyone got to talking, it was clear just how massive and butthole this guy was. Sadly, my colleagues had to deal with this for months before everything was said and done. Did they hire his wife? That'd be awesome, and a great lesson for that guy. I wonder how he got a PhD though, even if his wife did most of it. You still have to take exams yourself, do research there, and present your thesis, doctorate, etc. The IT crew at a large government office worked on a ticket system, meaning that the government workers submitted their problem online and one of the IT guys would pick it up on their end. The new guy just started his first day, logged into a computer at an empty office, and submitted a reinstall entire OS request so he could spend all day there. The manager decided to check in on him before lunch to see how he was doing, and he was completely asleep. Fired before they even finished his hiring paperwork. Spent my summers in college working as a laborer for a construction company. Anyway, we were doing a bunch of renovation in an active hospital, so noise and dust were a huge concern. We were a small crew and just starting renovations on an area with a super tight schedule, so the company hired a subcontractor for some of the work. Enter these two clowns who show up to do some demolition work. Foreman gives them the talk about how they may be used to doing things a certain way, but this is an active hospital, so he'd rather the work take longer than for them to make a huge mess or a lot of noise. An hour later, we apparently got multiple complaints about the noise and the mess, so the foreman calls me up and says to go over there and clean up now, and that he'd be by shortly to see what the hell was going on. These dudes had dust and broken wall everywhere. I could hear them halfway down the hall, just smashing away without a care in the world. The foreman shows up and we walk into the room to witness this dude standing on a pile of rubble swinging a sledgehammer over his head at a brick wall that he's removed the bottom from. Somehow the rest of this wall is still hanging from the ceiling, I have no idea how. Guy wasn't even wearing a hard hat, apparently oblivious that at any moment that wall might give way and crush him. The foreman lost his effing mind on these guys. Kicked them out immediately, and got on the phone with their company and told them he didn't want to see these guys on site again. Lots of choice four-letter words were used, even threatened to fire the subcontractor entirely and get someone else to do the work. Guy wasn't even wearing a hard hat, apparently oblivious that at any moment that wall might give way and crush him. On the plus side, you're in a hospital. Corporate chain restaurant new server, aged mid-30s. Third day he was working, we had to fire him mid-shift. Why? Dude went into the public restrooms, with other guests clearly in there using the urinal, and started doing lines of blow-off on the edge of the sink. Why not just do it in the back with the cooking staff like everyone else? 'Cause then you might get asked to share. Guy slept through 2 meetings on his first day. The second meeting he started snoring. One of our better programmers sleeps through meetings regularly. Partially passive-aggressive bullcrap, partly because he works so many hours that he needs getting an occasional break from the stress. At one company, the best hardware design engineer left every day right at 5 o'clock, and usually took a short nap after lunch, too. But when he was working, he outproduced the other engineers and delivered better designs, too. I followed my boss one day when he went to ask him a question. The boss saw he had his head down on his folded arms, turned to me with his finger on his lips, and quietly backed out and closed his office door. My old boss always told me that if you weren't punctual, you better be damn good at something else. Knew a very senior engineer who would routinely do this, but when you threw a question at him, He answered it without even opening his eyes. Not sure how he managed that. I get really sleepy in long meetings when the room is warm, always, and I don't get to talk much. I don't realize I'm drifting off. I can still answer questions though, and I am usually the one taking the minutes, which always come out perfect, so people sort of have gotten used to it. We have one meeting room that is notorious for this. It's glass on 3 sides and the afternoon sun hits at the perfect angle to make the room intensely warm while also making everyone squint. Visiting auditors have fallen asleep on more than one occasion, and we have noticed the ones who don't fall asleep tend to become very docile and give up around 2 p.m. Edit, we refer to the sweet sleepy auditors as kittens. How did the audit go? Oh, it was fine. He was a total kitten by day 3. Edit 2. Our office does daily mindfulness meditation for those who want to. We had to stop using that meeting room because too many people were falling asleep. Nobody wants to be visualizing their place of calm and be interrupted by a coworker snoring in the seat next to them. Weird, but cute. I vote the next step is to add actual kittens to equation. Docile, amused auditors, plus, piles of fluff on paper stacks equals adorable marketing material. 90% of meetings should be spent sleeping, to be honest. I'm currently 55 minutes into a meeting that I've been on mute for the entire time and nobody has said anything that even remotely pertains to me. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.